Convicted murder and Facebook rapist Thabo Bester's alleged jailbreak accomplice, Dr. Magudumana, has refuted the state's claim that she's a flight risk.
Her advocate, France Flamini, also dismissed submissions today that she has two passports when she was arrested, which were found, in fact, excuse me, let me rephrase that. She was found with two passports, they say, when she was arrested, along with Bester, in Tanzania back in April. Magudumana is accused of helping the convicted rapist and murderer to fake his death in a fire at the Mannya Correctional Center in May last year.
Well, prosecutors are opposing her release on the basis that she's facing 5 separate fraud cases amounting to millions.
Paragraph K, it is true that applicant had a passport and it was taken by the police. And we submit that on that basis, she cannot be a flight risk. The issue of the passport being used 23 times for trips outside South Africa. The passport is in possession of the police. Ordinarily, should have been at least attached to show proof to that effect. That has not been done. But if you also look at what they are saying, they say he went out of the country 23 times, but he was still coming back to South Africa. What happened to that 11 months they allege in the affidavit? If that was the truth, despite that she was still coming back to South Africa. Now why do you say she will escape, she will not stand trial? We deny that she was in possession of 2 passports. We deny, and we stated that categorically clear in our papers. But the state says he was in possession of 2 passports. Where is evidence to that effect? The applicant has not been charged, has not been arrested, has not been approached by the police, has not been brought to court. In fact, these cases cannot be regarded as pending cases against the applicant. There's none. There's none. And I'm saying this, I'm seeking reliance on the provisions of Section 60, subsection 11, capital B in bracket, which provides that in bail proceedings, the accused or his or her legal advisor is compelled to inform the court whether, Roman Euro number 1, the accused has previously been convicted of any offense. Number 2, there are any charges pending against him or her, and whether he or she has been released on bail in respect of those pending charges. This relates to pending charges. Conditions thereof is that the legal rep or the accused must say, in respect of those pending charges, what is her status? Is she released on bail? Is she in custody? Is she... So with regard to this, they don't even if they can be squeezed to fit in this provision. They cannot fit in. I submit that in terms of the law, these are not pending cases.
Well, for more on today's proceedings, we're joined by legal analyst Mannya. Good evening, and thank you so much for your time tonight. Firstly, before we get just into the actual case and the merits of what was before the court today, I want us to begin by talking about Nandi Magudumana. Second day now that her bail application is being heard. She's looking quite distressed in the dock. Of course, what we've seen over the last 2 days, quite different to the last time that she was in this courtroom.
Yes, good evening, Kathy, and your viewers. And people should not be faulted for thinking that she's acting up. I mean, she's been arrested for a while now. It's well over a month, if it's not 2. And the last pictures of her that we saw when she appeared with Thabo Bester, she was very jolly. One would be surprised why today she shedding tears. So, as I say, I would think that she's acting up to try and attract the sympathy of the court.
Let's talk about the case that she's made before the court around why she should be granted bail. She says she is a parent who is fully responsible for her 2 children. That's the argument that has been made by her advocate. But of course, the state is opposing that. They have submitted, contesting evidence and say that she's only called her children and her husband once since being arrested. The rest of her call register is really calls to friends and her lawyers. How important is this kind of evidence when the court weighs up an application of this nature?
Well, look, it's very important because, it talks to what would be her responsibilities. But I must say that I think the bulk of what Dr. Magudumana is saying doesn't make sense. I mean, if somebody were to leave 2 minor children and be arrested in Tanzania, you ask yourself who's been looking after the children. I think from what we know is that the father of the children has actually been taking care of the children for a while now. So I'm surprised when she wants to use that as an excuse for seeking bail. But for me, it doesn't make sense.
Ms. Magudumana, of course, would also want the court to believe that she was taken to Tanzania under duress. In fact, her affidavit says that, Thabo Bester forced her into a vehicle and she succumbed to the pressure due to threats that she was under at the time.
Yes, maybe we can give her the benefit of succumbing to pressure in getting into the car from the point where they left. But whether you can, give her the benefit of traveling from here to Tanzania, I think she's gone through a few countries and a few places. Kathy, obviously, they would have stopped at some point to refuel. She would have gone to an ablution facility. If she was really under any form of duress, she could have alerted anybody. That would be my take. I think that she's putting up a lot of flimsy excuses to try and extricate herself out of this thing.
Let's look at the state's argument that her release on bail would create and lead to public disorder and also an undermining of the justice system. Let's unpack that. What are the lawyers really saying here?
Yeah, look, I think generally, as you would have noticed, when some people appear in court for particular crimes, you would find that there are protests by members of society, demanding that this person not be granted bail because they say that, we don't want this person within us. But we haven't seen that with Ms. Magudumana. I think the real issue for me is whether, having regard to the fact that she was a fugitive, that she left the country illegally, because that's really what is before the court, she stands to return to court if admitted on bail. I think she still poses a risk of being of running away again. I think that's for me. But I think the issue of whether it will undermine society or public order, I don't necessarily think that is going to be the case. I think the case may be whether she's going to interfere with witnesses or commit further crimes.
This issue of her being a flight risk, of course, we know again in court that it's been mentioned that she was found in possession of 2 passports. And when somebody is arrested, of course, those passports are sometimes taken and the official documents are sometimes held by police. If her lawyers argue that she's not in possession of her passports and therefore would be unable to leave the country, what are the risks that the court would really have to consider here, and how much of her history will be a determining factor when it comes to that final decision?
I found that to be a big joke. She says that she only became aware that her passport was in the car when she was arrested in Tanzania. And the question is, if that is her official and only passport, how did she go through all these ports of entry, leave South Africa, go in Zimbabwe, and whatever the case may be? How did she do that when she was not in possession of her own passport. The allegation, as we understood, in the public domain, is that there were a multiplicity of passports. So whether she has got her own official passport or not, I don't think explains whether she can leave the country or not. She has already said she was not in possession of her own official passport, but she was found in Tanzania. And the question is, how did she lawfully enter any of the countries that she used as transit points? So clearly that on its own says this person is capable of anything. So I wouldn't buy her story if I was the magistrate about the fact. She has to explain how she got from South Africa to Tanzania without having in her possession her official passport.
All right. We'll leave it there for tonight. Magudumana Mannya is a legal analyst.